that's an interesting comment. Willie says U of M can be 11-1 and not make the playoffs. Pretty sure it could happen. I think if Ohio State is the one loss on that schedule, I would feel pretty confident that Michigan would get in. Now, it will be interesting to see, obviously, what happens elsewhere, right? So if you've got a undefeated Oklahoma, let's say an undefeated Georgia team that makes it, and an undefeated Clemson, I think they may be in trouble. But I mean, how often do we have multiple undefeated teams in the playoffs? So I think Michigan, with the season that they had last year and also winning 11 straight games, I mean, I'd be hard pressed to think that they wouldn't be a top two. I mean, unless we're talking 5 or 6 teams are undefeated at that time, I just don't. I don't see that happening. I think Michigan will get in. And now, all right, Willie, come on now. A SEC 2 loss over U of M 1 loss. I'm assuming you're talking just rankings and not the playoff, because we all know until that. Let's put it this way: I don't think there's going to be a 2-loss team in the SEC to get in, and there's just, I'm going to say it, there's no way that's going to happen. So, absolutely, I wholeheartedly disagree. No, but I think Michigan, with coming off the season they had last year and winning 11 straight games, you're probably going to be a top 2, top 3 team in the country. And having losing 1 game to Ohio State, if in this scenario the Michigan 1 loss is Ohio State, who I would say is the best team on their schedule, I still think Michigan is getting in. I think the brand is too big. Number one, that does play into it, but then also 2, I would imagine Ohio State's going to be undefeated in that scenario, and if that is the case, then Michigan is going to look at it, and really the committee will look at it and say, okay, this team won 11 straight games. The only team that beat them is the undefeated Big Ten champion, who is in the best conference in the country. Like, yeah, that team deserves to get in. I think they would. I think they'd definitely be. They would be in if they won. If only had 1 loss. So yeah, I think they definitely would get in. Let's see. Let's get to Steve's third prediction, and that is that JJ will win the job. I mean, I feel like this is inevitable. I feel like, and obviously I'm not in practice. I'm not dialed in and inside or anything like that. But I just feel like this is something that is inevitable. Like this, to me, you need to rip the Band-Aid off. You didn't go out and recruit JJ and get him here on campus to have him either splitting time or to be a backup quarterback. Like I just feel like this is something that's inevitable. And like I mentioned, my plan would be, and I know Jim Harbaugh did not ask for it, would be start JJ game 1. Get him, I mean, I'd love 30 pass attempts, but that's probably not going to happen. So let's say 20 pass attempts a game in the first 3 weeks. Let him make the mistakes in games that you are 100% going to win, so that once you get to Maryland, right, you can start to tighten things up a little bit, and then that he's ready to roll when it comes to the Iowa game. It's a road game. It's going to be tough, but obviously I don't make the decisions and all that good stuff. So I agree with Steve. I think JJ will win the job, and I just would hope it's before Maryland, and really, really hope it's before Iowa. And if not, who knows? Maybe they'll play the 2-quarterback system, or go with who's got the hot hand, or something like that. It worked last year. I think you could have made the case where JJ was just young, and maybe he's not quite ready to take the reins 100%. It makes sense, and he's got the running element that is much better than Cade's. So that, to me, you can make that case, but I'm just not sure you can make that case this year. I would say either throw him in there game one, week one, or don't. We will see what happens, but I do agree with Steve that JJ will win the quarterback job. The fourth prediction, the Michigan O-line will win the Joe Moore Award again, and I think the O-line is going to be extremely talented. I think they're going to do really well, similar to last year. But I would say that they won't, and it has nothing to do with their performance. I just think it's hard for a group, with the Joe Moore Award is a group award, or even an individual award, to win the same award back to back years. I just think it's really difficult. I mean, we haven't had a back to back Heisman winner. Archie Griffin. I mean, it's a difficult award to win. Granted, yes, some of the guys who win it are older, juniors and seniors, things of that nature. But even the Biletnikoff Award, like I would be willing to bet that Jordan, is it Addison Adderley, the Pitt wide receiver who won the Biletnikoff Award, which is the best wide receiver award, who transferred to USC. I don't think there's any chance he's going to win the award, because I just think it's really difficult. I think that the voters are going to, they would rather vote for someone else. This is just me personally. I think they would rather vote for someone else than to just give the same group the award. And not to say that group wouldn't have earned it. I think Michigan's O-line is going to be terrific, but I don't think that prediction will happen. And the last one is Steve thinks that Michigan will go into Ohio State 11-0, and we had an interesting comment, Mark, that Willie thinks that if Michigan is a one-loss team, and I've created the scenario that the one loss would be Ohio State, they said that a one-loss Michigan team would not get into the playoff. I think that was the argument, or maybe it was just that a two-loss SEC team would be ranked higher. But the way that Willie made it seem as if they wouldn't get into the playoff, which I don't. Couple things. Number one, I don't think a one-loss Michigan team would get left out, especially by an undefeated Big Ten champion Ohio State. And number two, there's absolutely no way a two-loss SEC team's getting in the playoff. I didn't think that last year when Alabama played Georgia in the SEC championship. I know a lot of people, were on that bandwagon, and even as an Alabama fan, I'm like, that's not happening. If they lose, they're going home or to a bowl game, but not the playoff. I don't think so.
So if Alabama would have lost the SEC championship game last year and been 11-2, I guess Baylor would have been the next selection.
Because they beat Oklahoma State, right, in the
Yes.
Big 12 championship. Were they they were a one-loss team, weren't they? Or were they two-loss? Now I'm trying to think, okay, can I search up what the standings look like?
Now, Notre Dame was 11-1, but still, if Alabama would have lost 31-28, great game against Georgia,
I would probably say Notre Dame at that point. I'm very hard pressed. Like, I know Alabama, and they do get preferential treatment. I think they have earned it, but nonetheless, they do get the benefit of the doubt. But for that, I still wouldn't have.
2017, Auburn was playing in the SEC championship game with 2 losses. They would have gone to the playoff if they would have won.
If they would have won
the championship game, but they would have been an SEC champion.
Yeah, I'm not sure. Yeah, I would imagine, because Willie says Notre Dame was number 5, and Were they 5? Yeah. I'm not quite. No, because I think Baylor was 5, and then Baylor lost. I think OK State might have been 6. So I think that might have been a 5-6 matchup, and then maybe Notre Dame would have been 7 going into championship weekend.
Yeah, I'll have to look it up, but
Yeah, I'm not quite sure, but I just don't. With losing, yeah, I just there's no part of me that thinks that Alabama would have been in.
I need more information on this Michigan scenario. So the SEC champs in. Is Clemson? If these other conference champions only have one loss, they're going to get in over Michigan.
Mm-hmm.
Except maybe Utah. Utah might not. If Ohio State's just running the table, and then Michigan gives them their toughest game of the year, and it's a really good game, and that's 11-1. Ohio State's either number 1 or number 2, depending on Alabama. Yeah, they'll get a lot of respect for going to Columbus and losing a great game. They'll also have those 3 non-conference games. Like, they're not going to have a non-conference game to throw up there as
there, to beat your chest of yeah, here's what we did. We played a tough schedule. Yeah, I just think by that time, I mean, you're talking 11 straight wins, and now this is when the AP poll does kind of come into play, and maybe not so much the AP, but to me, I do think that impacts the CFP voters, because most times it pretty much mirrors what the AP poll shows most times. So that's kind of where it does come into play. But I mean, 11, we're talking winning 11 straight games. Penn State, you would have beaten Penn State, Iowa on the road, Michigan State. I mean, I don't know. It's interesting. I think I still think they'd be hard pressed to be left out. But like you said, if my scenario was if Georgia's undefeated and wins the SEC, they're in. If Clemson's undefeated and wins the ACC, they're in. I mean, really, even if Clemson's a 1-loss champ, and they'd be in over Michigan. But like you said, if there's a if Utah is the Pac-12 champ with 2 losses, I think Michigan is probably getting in over them, and then we've got the Big 12 to figure out kind of what's going to happen there. But I mean, I don't know.
Ohio State was 12-1 with a Big Ten championship and got left out.
Was that when Alabama was 4?
No, that was the next year.
Okay, who got in over them that year?
2018 was
Oklahoma,
Clemson, Alabama were undefeated. Notre Dame was undefeated. Yeah, Oklahoma got in over Ohio State.
Okay. Yeah, so in that scenario, so you had those 2 were undefeated. Notre Dame can throw a wrench in things a bit when it comes to that, and I'm sure there's a lot of feelings on it, but yeah, they can definitely throw a wrench in it, because essentially you could say basically the top 3 conference champs are usually going to be in, but like I said, when sometimes you got Notre Dame in there, that kind of skews it a bit. And even last year, you had Cincinnati, the Group of 5 team in, that skews things as well. 2 SEC teams, Big Ten team, and then no other Power 5 conferences. So yeah, it's interesting. I mean, I highlighted this comment from Willie. It says Big Ten has never put 2 teams in the playoffs. I'm like, yeah, that is true, but as with most things, it doesn't happen until it happens. Like people talked about kind of Georgia and Kirby Smart, like, oh, they haven't won the national championship. Correct, but until it happens, and then at that point, it will have happened. So, I'm trying to think of where I stand on this last prediction that they go into Ohio State 11-0. I don't think there's any reason that they should not. I think they're talented enough. It seems the culture has been trending in the right direction. And I think they have what they need in order to stroll into Columbus 11-0.
I say they get tripped up.
Did you have any game in mind or just in general?
I'll give Penn State the best opportunity, even on the road.
Yeah. It's a difficult thing to get through. I mean, because you look at just especially the Power Five conferences. I mean, it happened, yeah, with an undefeated team, but I mean, really, there's like what, one a year? Not even. I mean, we had the COVID year was a little different, but you had the 2019 LSU team; they were undefeated. The Trevor Lawrence Clemson team, they were undefeated. Uh, Gosh,
Ohio State.
Ohio
There were
State was
three
undefeated.
teams that year.
Mm. That was the year. That was with Justin Fields, his first year
Yeah.
at Ohio State. Yeah, it's a difficult thing to do. It's just especially when you're in Big Ten, SEC, where you're playing quality teams on a pretty consistent basis, and it's just difficult to go unscathed. So Mark thinks that they'll have a trip up. Not sure who, but you're thinking it maybe Penn State's got the best shot of it.
On Dace's show, I went Penn State with the biggest chance. Then the trip to Iowa. Then I went Michigan State, Nebraska, and then my wild card is Maryland.
With Talia's three interceptions every week. You never know. But yeah, it'll be an interesting year. I'm excited for it. We're just a couple weeks away. We've got real football next week, which is very exciting. It's week 0, which I'm not sure why we termed it that, but sure, I'll roll with it. Week 0. We got a Big Ten matchup, don't we? I think it's who does Purdue? Does Purdue play a game next week?
Nebraska Northwestern.
That's right, Nebraska Northwestern. Yeah, it's I'm excited. Like I told Dre last week, I'm like, I don't care that in a normal, if this were in the middle of the season, Nebraska Northwestern playing, I probably wouldn't watch it, to be quite frank, but I'm absolutely going to be tuning in to Nebraska Northwestern next week.
Yeah, I like week 0 because I watch teams that I will not watch the rest of the year. There's no way I'm watching Hawaii's playing Vanderbilt in week 0. I'm going to watch that game. I'm not watching either of those teams play football the rest of the year. Wyoming's playing Illinois. I'll watch that.
Yeah, it's a great time for that. Great time for it. So